beneath the trees, followed by a rainstorm that floods the barren seas. Did you ever meet your maker? Did he ever make you believe? Was it what you expected to give you everything you need? Well, expectations.
In 2019, when I hiked the PCT, I attempted my first FKT when I got to the California-Oregon border and attempted the self-supported FKT for Oregon, where I failed but learned a lot, and after my through hike decided that I wanted to reattempt the Oregon section of the PCT, self-supported, and in 2020 I thought that was going to be the year. And unfortunately, the Lion's Head fire broke out after I was trained and had all my caches ready to be put down. And within a week, I switched the whole plan to Washington, where I started on September 12th, 2020, and finished here at the Bridge of the Gods in self-supported, fastest known time, 8 days and 18 hours. And still wanted to come and complete Oregon, but the Lion's Head fire closure continued through 2021, and after I hiked the CDT, I took a job in New Orleans working for the local news and just had to postpone coming back here and finding the time to do it until this year. Tumbleweed and I opened up a store in Chalman, New Mexico on the CDT where we make backpacks, fanny packs, food bags, sweatshirts and sweatpants, and have been kind of living out our dream for this past summer, and also gave me the time to go train on the Colorado Trail like I did in 2020 for what would be the Washington FKT, and kind of repeated that training after northbound season slowed down and got ready for this. And in true Oregon fashion, as the time got closer, the fires started coming. And in the middle of my training, I saw that Eric Halston began his attempt for the Oregon PCT FKT as well. And Eric was able to break the record that was 10 years old, and he set an incredible time of 7 days and 14 hours and 37 minutes. And that was now my time to beat. And I'm truly excited for him, and I was grateful to meet him in REI and was getting ready with the final preparations for my hike. I was planning on continuing my footpath going south from the bridge to California, and then with the fire situation, I made a plan to go north and then switch back to south, and then it made sense to go north again. When I started this, there was a fire, the Camp Creek fire, burning here at the northern border of Oregon, and the head fire burning at the southern border at California. And there were fires burning on trail in the middle. The Pete's Lake fire created a closure that I would have to take a reroute around. That's unfortunately the hard part about this, lining up life and training and all of the logistics of caches and everything, and then the things that are out of my control, like wildfires, are a constant for doing something like this, and probably a big reason why it's taken me 4 years to come back here and do this. And I'm so grateful to have been able to accomplish it, you know, even just by an hour and a half, but I did it, and it was hard, and it feels great. It especially feels great to be back here where I was 3 years ago, sitting in the same spot, having completed the journey. So yeah, I started on September 1st at midnight from the California border, and it rained on me the whole way.
6:35 in the morning, I'm 24 miles in, and just a few miles away from the interstate.
Just misting rain all the way past the interstate. There was a 90% chance of rain at Ashland, but I moved well. It's definitely, I think, my best pace out of all the days out here.
I'm over 40 miles in right now. It is just about 11 o'clock in the morning. And like I said, this is like the closest that the sun's come to poking through the clouds so far. So that's good. I've just been trying to get far away from that bad forecast that I can. and also finish the day as quickly as possible so I can get a good night's sleep and an early start tomorrow.
You know, I had questions about the fire reroute. I think the PCTA had just posted a reroute, and unfortunately I didn't have time to like plug all that stuff into my phone before because it happened as I was starting the effort. So having to kind of get information on the move while moving in and out of service.
I am like a mile and a half from the top of the last climb for today. 63 and a half miles in, just under 18 hours, and I'm about to make it down the other side of this to the cache, unbury everything, throw it in the bag, and I think the plan is to just hike one more mile to this cabin.
And I made it to the first cache at about 8:30, and then pushed an extra mile and a half to the shelter across the Dead Indian Memorial Highway, where I was nervous about waking up hikers just because it was late in the evening and I had a lot of chores to do, like cooking food and just getting everything ready. I basically just grabbed the cache and moved on to the shelter where I would go and process my resupply and all of my gear. But I had cached my stove and my cooking gear and everything, so I didn't have to carry any of that stuff on the first day, which is why I was able to do such a big day and yeah, move pretty light.
6 a.m. on day 2. I did 71 miles yesterday. I got to the cache right around 8 o'clock, right as it got dark. I just packed up since it was so wet. I decided to camp in this cabin. That was another 1.5 miles into across the highway. And I got there like right around 9, I guess, 9 p.m. So yeah, packed everything up. I was nervous that if there were hikers there that I'd wake them up, and I definitely had chores to do. I was soaking wet all day yesterday, so I didn't even bother taking socks and shoes off until I got into camp. But that was one of the major chores that I was looking forward to doing. But luckily, there were 3 hikers there, and they were all still up and very nice. And they, yeah, I don't think I bothered them too much. And I did wake up around 2:30. Got up around 3. Got moving around 3:45. But
Day 2, I started at 3:40 in the morning from the Brown Mountain Shelter with the goal of making it to the Mazama Village Highway. I stopped short of it and camped at the Union Peak Trail Junction, which was 55 miles on the second day.
as I expected, I was very sore today. The second day might always be the hardest for things like this, but first it was just my quads, which I've been able to kind of overcome some, or they at least know how to keep going. I mean, everything's still obviously moving, but I think I have shin splints now in both legs.
As I was getting closer to Crater Lake, moving through the burn section just after the Oregon Desert, I got hailed on, had a really cold night in camp.
Turned around and there's just thunderclouds all behind me.
Day 3, I got a late start. Started at 4 o'clock in the morning and overslept an alarm, but still got going and made it through the red line around Crater Lake.
It's 6:30, I'm almost 7 miles in. I am on the red line around Crater Lake, and yeah, I made it 55 last night. Felt terrible, but got into bed just after 10.
After I got off of the junction to the rim trail and the red line, it was straight down to Highway 138 where I cached my second cache.
Everything's freezing cold. Perfect.
Got there, processed all of that, and kept moving.
Doesn't suck, right?
And yeah, this is where like I had a little bit of nostalgia, started passing some of the spots where I was completely delirious and definitely not on pace on my first effort in 2019.
And it's 7 o'clock. I'm about 43 miles in on day 3. Just made it to the high point, and I'm gonna try to push 17 more. Sounds crazy. To Wendigo Pass, and get set up for another big day tomorrow. My legs are feeling a little better the last few hours, at least, ever since the resupply, which is surprising because my bag was heavier, but I'll take it. I also put the compression socks back on, which I think is helping with the shin splints.
I was trying to make it to Wendigo Pass that evening, and I made it just a few miles away from Wendigo Pass. It was a 55-mile day, or 54 miles on the third day.
It's just after 6 a.m. on day 4, and I am 7.5 miles in.
When I camped there that evening, it looked like it was misting rain, so I set up underneath a tree that looked like it would give me a little bit of shelter. And when I woke up, my kidneys were hurting terribly.
It looked like it was gonna rain, so I used my emergency bivvy, which of course got my sleeping bag or my quilt soaking wet. And then it's been kind of lightly raining all morning, but we got moving at 3:30.
And I started moving into the resort areas of the trail.
3:15 on day 4, 36 miles in, and made it to Wilman Pass. I'm gonna go unbury the cache and try to do this real fast. Hello.
On day 4, I was getting closer to the reroute, at least like where I would camp. My goal was to get as far into the reroute as possible. That turned out to only be 2 miles, but it was a 61-mile day. Late in the evening, right before the reroute, was a big burnout section that was all sandy and really hard to navigate and stay on trail, and started getting a little delirious. And but I pushed until midnight that night. On day 5, I was woke up trying to move as quickly as I could through the reroute, knowing that I was going to lose the lead that I had on the record at that point, which was frustrating, but it was the reality and just part of what I had to do to get here.
It's a bit of a bummer that I had like a 12-mile lead last night. The goal today was to regain it, because I'll lose at least 10 miles. So I know that Eric camped in the lava field, maybe 6 miles away from the D-Ride Observatory. The goals today are to either make it to the observatory or to make it a few miles in to the lava field towards Mount Washington, where there's a campsite that I stayed at in 2019.
I started getting pretty nervous that so early into the effort that I would have shin splints, but you know, I just decided I would just try to push through it and try to take care of it the best I can, which meant eating ibuprofen and eventually just soaking my legs in rivers and lakes as much as possible.
All right. Wrapping back up, pretend like everything's fine.
I moved through the reroute and back on trail. I think I was back on the PCT at 2:30 in the afternoon. And it seemed like everything was going well until After rejoining the PCT, I sat down for a second and figured I would start charging my headlamp and get ready for some night hiking, when I realized that I had lost my bag of cords. So I didn't have a micro USB to charge my Garmin. I didn't have the cord for my wristwatch for my Chorus, and kind of went into crisis mode. I had 36% left on my Garmin and didn't know what I was going to do. At the same time, I realized that I wasn't even on the PCT and I had turned off or missed a turn and gone a mile in the wrong direction. So I did 2 extra miles and was running down the trail at South Sister when I ran into a Nobo thru hiker named Beta, and he was kind enough to give me his micro USB cord so I could charge the Garmin. My only other option, I think, was to push through the night and do a 76 to Santiam Pass, where I would have time if I needed to hitch and get back and not lose time on the record, because store hours aren't the same as what time I start hiking, which is usually 3:30 in the morning. Kept pushing past the Sisters, which is a great section that I always love going through. It was the first time I ever touched a PCT, was doing the loop around the Sisters. And it was also the place where I gave up on my effort for this attempt in 2019. And I hit that section around sunset that evening.
Oh man, pretty neat being back here. This is where I called it quits in 2019. This runs into Obsidian Falls. But not a bad place to decide to quit. It's beautiful here. This is like one of my favorite spots. But we're not quitting this year. I'm over a day ahead of my old self. I've learned so much, and I feel still in control over this effort. So we're gonna be all right. But this place is magical.
Pushed through the lava field past North Sister to D-Ride Observatory, where I camped, which I think was a mistake. I didn't sleep well. There was a cyclist who was in there, and that wasn't a big deal, but people showed up in the middle of the night and kind of woke me up. And it just wasn't the good night of sleep that I was hoping for, and I probably should have kept pushing into the lava field. And even though I did a 59-mile day that day, because of the reroute and the 2 miles I hiked in the wrong direction, it was really like a 52-mile day. So I should have pushed further, and that was just a mistake.
Good morning from the back of Mount Washington. It's like 5 minutes to 6:30 on day 6 of the Oregon PCT, and it's been a fun, cold, and rocky morning. I just came through that lava flow from D-Ride Observatory, where I slept last night, which in hindsight was probably a mistake, but yesterday was a day of mistakes.
On day 6, I made it 58 miles to Forest Road 4220. I was trying to make it to Alali Lake, and I was probably like 5 or 6 miles or something before that. But I moved well past Mount Jefferson. There was a point where I was extremely dehydrated and had gone on the ridge towards Jefferson, didn't realize how dry it was for a really long time. Finally found a lake and found water.
I haven't taken from a water source in 25 miles, or probably more, since I picked up 2 liters from the cache. I'm like getting dizzy. I'm about to raw dog a lake if there's anything left in it. And the shin splint was getting terrible. I had to put the compression sleeve on just that one and stop for a second. But I'm over 40 miles in, it's almost 6 o'clock. It's 5 miles down to Milk Creek, but I'm hoping that this lake has something, because I feel like I could hit the deck. This is crazy. I've never gone this long without water and just pushing this hard. Anyway, well, this is it. I love you. Tell my story.
It was a hard day dealing with that, and then I moved into camp, and the forest road that I camped at, the comment said that there was a spring somewhere nearby, so I just kind of depended on that to get water. And when I got there, I went looking for the spring flowing and couldn't find it, and ended up going to bed thirsty and dehydrated.
Good morning from just outside of Lolly Lake on day 7. I don't know how far I'm in, maybe 8 miles or something. But I'm going through, as you can see, I'm guessing it's the Lion's Head fire or burn area. Which is pretty massive. Been going through it all morning. It was crazy, but anyway, I did like 57, 58 yesterday. Went to sleep and had the hardest time getting up this morning. Just standing up was incredibly hard. And it made me question my plan. So I wanted to get to Lolly last night and then do 40 into the cache and the 60 in to Cascade Locks, and maybe take a nap at the cache. And after standing up this morning, I second guessed that plan, and then doing all the hiker math and stuff. I should have probably woken up at 2:30 like I originally intended, but here we are. It's still okay, but I do have to keep going non-stop. So it's 107 miles to Cascade Locks, and I'll be awake for all of it. I'm not going down. Like I said, I don't think my body's gonna get back up, which also makes me worried about what it's gonna be like when I do get to Cascade Locks. I'm really nervous about the recovery from what I've done, and yeah, how my body's gonna say fuck you at the end. But I know that if I stop and nap, it's gonna take a while to get back up, and I won't be able to sleep well anyway. I mean, I had so much pain in my knees and my legs while I was trying to sleep. It was incredible. So I know it's going to be worse when I do go to sleep, but I'll deal with that when I have to. For now, we're less than 100 miles away from the Bridge of the Gods, and we must send. We will. Appreciate y'all.
As the sun was coming up past Lolly Lake, moving into Warm Springs, at 8 a.m. I got attacked by bees. I got stung like 6 or 8 times and sprinted down the trail. And when I did, I irritated the shin splints in my right leg. And had to limp a mile or two to a spring where I was able to soak my leg and bring it back.
Oh my God.
The shin splints were starting to get worse, but it would just have moments where it would be okay, and then moments where it would just take over and I would have to stop and try to do something about it. But I was eating an incredible amount of ibuprofen and trying to stretch it, massage it, and the soaking was probably the thing that helped it the most. Made it through the reservation. and when I got to the highway after Warm Springs, there was a man, Carbs, who was doing trail magic, who made me a pancake and gave me a Coca-Cola. And I kept pushing after that to Frog Lake. And about this time, I got a message from my girlfriend saying that my track points weren't showing up. And kind of went into panic mode, started screenshotting everything that was going on, started recording a separate track on Gaia and Strava on my phone since I at least had service to do that, and just figured I would move to Frog Lake and figure out the troubleshooting with the Garmin once I got there. What I think happened was that the track points just didn't update because I had been in the trees all day going through the reservation and through the Hood National Forest. But then when I stopped the track, it never updated those track points. So I think I messed that up, but I did record it on another device, or like on Strava, to fill in that gap. 6:15, I got to cache number 5 at Frog Lake, where I buried a bunch of my gear, like the cast iron and all my sleeping gear and stuff. And right around 7:30 p.m. I started my last push to the finish for 60 miles. And I was getting a little nervous with my body. I felt pretty shaky walking out of Frog Lake, and decided, you know, I was pretty well on pace to where I could just walk and probably get the record. So I didn't want to push too hard at the beginning of it when I knew I'd have to push at the end. So I made it past Timberline Lodge, and unfortunately with the Garmin situation earlier, and I didn't have a battery pack that was full at the moment, so I got my last battery pack from my cache and used it to charge the Garmin and my phone, and hadn't charged my headlamp all day. So I was trying to charge my headlamp on the move in the dark, and ended up using my cell phone as a light for a lot of the last night on trail, which I think I forgot, you know, some of the river crossings and the glacial streams coming off of Hood on the backside. I walked up to with a cell phone light, and I think at that moment that was the first time it crossed my mind. I was like, maybe I won't get this record, because I just felt like I was losing a lot of time trying to cross these rivers and navigate. I fell hard several times throughout the night, and without having a way to tell how fast I was going, I was doing some math with like the total miles remaining to the Bridge of the Gods, and total hours until the record, and calculating how many miles per hour I would have to move on average to get the record, which was one part of it. But then knowing that I was moving that fast was impossible for me to actually tell. So I just had to guess that I was going that fast or faster, in which case it meant trying to run as much as possible.
We're out here working on it. I have no idea actually what's going on. I'm just running. I don't know where I'm at. I'm ahead of it, behind it. I'm just running like I'm behind. I don't have a watch to even tell me how fast I'm going. So I can calculate what I need to average to tie the record, to beat it by an hour, but that's it. So we're just fucking sending it and seeing what happens. But the sun's coming up, and I'm not feeling like I'm gonna fucking fall and die, because I've fallen a lot. Wow, what a night. 107 straight miles. Let's fucking go. Appreciate y'all. Let's get an FKT today.
But I had been hallucinating for a few days now. I had auditory hallucinations start around Mount Jefferson, where I could hear country music every time there was a river. I heard some band that sounded like Nickelback at one point. And the visual hallucinations, I think, started when I was coming down from North Sister, where there was like little patches of wet dirt in the dry dirt, and it was like the Rorschach ink blots, where I would just see characters' faces in the dirt. And that continued for the remainder of the trip. I mean, the hallucinations were probably for the last 3 days, constantly. At this point, my legs were shot and I knew it'd be terrible, and I could barely walk today. Just kept pushing down, just kept running and running and running. I mean, I was running very fast the last day. I wish I had the chorus to have like all the data from the last 2 days, but I know it was fast. I almost passed out probably like 5 miles before, when it was I didn't stop and get water, and I just wanted to get to the bridge, but I think my body was about to shut down on me, and stopped and got water and made it here at 1 o'clock, 1:05, just an hour and a half before Eric's record. It feels really good to close the chapter of this. It's been in my mind since 2019, and it's an incredible feeling to have accomplished it. Congratulations to Eric too on his effort. It was a really hard time to beat, and there was a reason that it was a 10-year-old record, so nobody can ever take that away from him. It was really good. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Spinning my wheels when the light turn red, with the bucket man grid and the list in my head. Well, problem in life, always get the two ties. Scared of what happened when I turn out the lights. Spinning my wheels when the light turn red, with the bucket man grid and the list in my head.